All right, welcome everyone to the MicroProfile Community Live Hangout. It is Tuesday, January 9th, and we have the usual cast of characters on. Thank you everyone for joining. Apologize for being a little bit late due to technical difficulties. So the recording will only be about 40 minutes today. All right. I don't have the link really handy with me, but I'll paste it in the chat if someone hasn't already. Oh, there it is. Thanks, Heiko. The meeting minutes are in the live Hangouts, and it's everyone's responsibility to take notes throughout the meeting. All right. Roadmap update. Let's start out with 1.3. Kevin, can you give an update?
Sure. So let's see. With 1.3, I mean, if you guys have been following the Google group, I mean, we didn't quite make fourth quarter, but we came pretty darn close. We were able. The final review from Eclipse didn't happen until January 3rd, so officially we couldn't release MicroProfile 1.3 until January 3rd, and that happened in the afternoon. So that's the overall release. But then, of course, we had all the other releases that were coming up to that for the different components. So we had the, just in case if the people on the call haven't been paying attention or keeping up, we had new components or new specifications for the REST client, Open Tracing, and Open API, and then an update to config and an update to metrics. And I think that's it, right? Yep, the 5 items. So thank you to everybody that helped out on that. And I know that we're still working through the details on getting the presentation redone to include the 1.3 updates. And then I guess the other part of this question is whether Cesar or Amelia, I mean, I don't know if we're having any other marketing type announcement for this. I know it's already been, kind of announced via Twitter, but I didn't know if you want to do anything else special.
Hear me?
Cesar, can you go?
Yep.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, hi. So the day of, by the way, there's an issue with the microprofile.io blog site. When you specify a date for a post, it subtracts 1 from the day. So I created a bug report, and I'm hoping someone will pick that up. Anyway, so my point is that the day of the release, I put together a quick announce that went into the blog post. So there's one there. And also Heiko put together a very nice blog post related to 1.3 as well. That is also in the list of the posts from microprofile.io as well. So that's one thing that I think still needs to be done is, on the landing page for microprofile.io, there is, if you scroll down, there is a section that shows the latest release. I believe that still needs to be updated to 1.3. I think it's still listing 1.2. And I'm not sure, David or Amelia, you can help me do that. In the past, I think one of you guys took care of doing that part.
Yeah, I saw our team showed the design for 1.3.
Okay, good.
It is ready as of last night. Yeah, I saw it last night. But New Year and all. So there are so many things about I/O and how we do things in I/O, and I think we need to tackle so that there is we're more scalable. And this is the same issue we're having with many other aspects of MicroProfile, but it does affect how marketing and the technical side communicates, and we need to do better at this. I was personally against doing anything 0.13 in December because MicroProfile marketing team was going to be off, wouldn't be able to back you guys or back the MicroProfile efforts very strongly. We should do better doing PR for marketing for MicroProfile this year and try the first quarter to be much more aligned. That means that not only Cesar needs to add a bug, but needs to know point of contact, not only about Tommy Troy being, the manager of IO. We are not. We have given the community members site. We continue to be back to zero, and we stop this. So we like to focus on creating a skeleton that help us do better, because this is not acceptable, right? We have Heiko, and I read your blog. Heiko is great because it's technical. And then Cesar is working on a template that will be sent by the marketing team, very short and sweet, with anything that community will need. This needs to be automatic. It should be a click and done, right? After review by at least 4 partners on MicroProfile. 4 partners mean 4 different vendors and maybe an individual or 2. So we can do better. This is one of the main issues we shouldn't be tackling this month and focused.
Right. So, like with bugs on the IO site, I mean, do we want to
Box doesn't work only.
take turns on fixing that?
Technically speaking, the infra for MicroProfile on how we need, when we send something, I said we need a marketing calendar for Monday the 8th because the doodle pool is done. And we are all off in vacation, and I get it, and we missed the first call.
I think you didn't answer the question. So
yeah.
The question is, how do we get more people enabled to actually fix the site?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody does have access. We even put together some short list of people who have full access to the Amazon account where everything is hosted. So they all have logins and credentials. I think maybe we just need to put more effort into transferring knowledge so people actually dig into that stuff and attempt to do fixes, attempt to do. That seems to be the only showstopper that I'm aware of, because in terms of actual credentials and logins and access, I believe we've got at least 6 people that do have access. If this bug fix, is there somebody who wants to volunteer to be a guinea pig to try to do a bug fix, and I'll get Tiago on our side, who wrote a lot of that stuff, to sit with you and work with you as you learn how to do a fix and a deploy?
And not only to learn, but to document the process.
Well, it's documented, but I think it always helps to have someone who is willing to.
Right. So I added the Oracle logo, I mean, it wasn't documented, but it wasn't hard to understand. Looking at the organization of the files, I mean, the directory structure and the files, I was able to find where the logos were. So I just dropped the Oracle logo there and then tested locally, and it appeared. So then I, did a pull request, and then I merged, and it appeared.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed the error in the dates. I just haven't had the time to, you have to spend time, and fix it.
All right. So I apologize. We should move this to the open discussion side of things. Just trying to keep us on track with kind of our normal agenda that we try and stick to. But let's put this in the parking lot for the end of the meeting. All right, MicroProfile 1.3 is out. Website aside, there's also a marketing section of this call where we can talk a little bit more about the marketing aspects. Unless there's anything else related to 1.3, I'd like to move on to 1.4. So anything left on 1.3 that people want to talk about? Not related to marketing or the website?
No, we did find a little hiccup. Actually, John found it, that we have a little hiccup on some of the specs that were generated. The PDF is clean, but the HTML is referencing the wrong version, and so we're getting that cleaned up. But that's pretty minor.
Okay, cool. The next topic is 1.4. So we don't have a specific list of technologies that are interested in 1.4 yet. What we had discussed up to this point was to maybe pause on rushing out new specs and really focus on developer experience, developer enablement, right? That a lot of that has to do, I think, with writing docs, anything to just enable the developer to learn and use MicroProfile technologies. It doesn't mean that specs can't do incremental updates. It's just that it means that the focus of the release is just more about enabling developers on the technologies that we have. I posted in the Google groups just some ideas about what that means. To me, others may have other ideas. I think we really do need to do a good job at writing just documentation. And I threw out two approaches. One is, a developer guide that's just kind of one long document. Another one is a collection of how-tos. Here's how you do some use case using some technology, one of the specifications, and just do many of those. I kind of preferred the latter, but that's what I kind of threw out on the table to start the discussion. So, does anyone disagree with the overall approach of a 1.4 being developer enablement focused and less feature focused? New feature focused? Does this sound okay?
I don't have any fundamental disagreement with that.
Yeah, I thought it was great, but I thought we decided this is part of the decision to harden what we have, correct? To make short videos, 1 to 5 minutes videos, and on what is 1.3 and it's just make it usable, right? I believe we should do less writing and more videos. And we talked about this the last call last year. So I thought it was a given that we will start it. So
I think these videos that you mention and also short guides may make a lot of sense. So Emily and I did that webinar from the Eclipse side on December 20th. Mm-hmm. And on YouTube, there is one comment like, "Oh, this is all awesome, but I can't sit through 1 hour of video." So having something short and sweet, or many of those, may actually make sense.
Yes, I didn't even see the video, but I know that you guys did it. I started it after 5 minutes, couldn't. Just complicated.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we don't have to necessarily discuss all the details of how we want to enable a developer. I think having it a focus then seems to be pretty like a pretty good approach. Let's discuss in the Google groups some ideas about how we want to do it. I also threw out the idea of we may want, and this is where the marketing folks again come in, kind of common templates around all this stuff. Look and feel for whether it's documentation or anything else, right? So, okay, so let's have that conversation in the Google group. There's already an existing thread on 1.4. Let's continue it there, and move on to kind of a spec update from the various teams with more of a focus on maybe what is being considered, if anything, for the 1.4 release. So let's see here. Sorry, I should have put the individual specs in. Let's start out with fault tolerance, or sorry, config. Anyone from the config team?
I don't see anyone on for config.
Okay, let's move on to fault tolerance.
Good turnout.
All right, I'm on a roll here.
Hold on a second. Yep. This is not about they not being able to be in this call. This is about the link not working, and not everyone gets an immediate message on updates. So people, I think we should cut this call short and apologize in the thread and say we will reconvene again and follow up asynchronous, because all those people wanted to join but weren't able to join, just like we did. And an update on all the projects is unfair when they are not here. So let's skip that topic. I believe so. If someone is here, so be it. But we need to apologize and say, hey,
Yeah.
Well, we could do this in reverse. Instead of John going through the whole list, we could just say, well, there's only 10 of us called. Does anyone want to give an update?
Mm-hmm. Better.
Okay.
So for metrics, we have had our call today, and we are actually looking at 2 new feature things right now that are interleaved. Probably then not have it in MicroProfile 1.4 and only add, let's say, bug fixes and documentation fixes and TCK fixes. That's possible, and then postpone the new feature work to 2.0. One part of that is integration with other parts of MicroProfile, where we not only believe it makes sense, but it's also, I think, gives a better impression for the overall project if the individual specs talk to each other and make use of each other, so that it's much more rounded.
What time are the calls for the metrics?
3 p.m. my time on Tuesdays.
What's the time zone?
I'm in Central European, so it's 6 hours to Boston, so 9 hours to you, I guess. Much too early.
What's no? We have other people. Yeah, so we're just not getting more people from our side on the various things. Too early for me, but most everybody else in the tribe is in Europe. So
yeah, okay, yeah. So I think our calendar entry has expired, but we have a topic about calendar updates later, so I'll raise it there.
Okay. Are you going to kick? I guess I couldn't wait to that, but I mean, just quickly, are you going to put a doodle poll out there, or are you just going to take the same slot that you had?
Oh, no, we will take the same slot. This worked for
3 p.m. CET. Tuesday, 3 p.m. CET.
Yes. So just for the clock comparison, it's 8:30 p.m. CET now over here.
Yep. That's 6 a.m. California time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I wouldn't be on that one anyway, but like I said, New Year, we'll be starting to get other people involved. So.
Cool.
Okay. Any other spec updates in the context of a 1.4 release? Okay. Maybe what we can do then is move to move to open discussion.
Well,
so we meant yes.
Yeah, so one thing that I thought we were going to bring up on the roadmap was the idea of the 2.0 release.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Got ahead of myself. So, MicroProfile 2.0, right now, up to this point, the focus has mainly been on updating to the baseline of the Java EE related specs to the Java EE8 equivalents, and adding JSON binding as a new technology. Are there any disagreements with that aspect? And is there anything else that someone else thinks should be considered? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's viable for 2.0, but I think we do need to really start looking at a codification or abstraction for service meshes, because the issue with Istio and how it impacts the developer-oriented focus that we have right now in MicroProfile, I think is going to require that we have a service mesh abstraction layer that is going to integrate into the injection layer when we're putting in endpoints that have all these externally configured features or properties. instead of our normal developer-oriented CDI-driven deployment model.
Yeah, this brings up an interesting aspect in that, Java EE to date has mainly kind of been just a collection of APIs, not really tied to anything external.
Okay.
Well, there are some. Well, let me rephrase that. There was support for things like databases, right? JCA, stuff like that, JNDI, for directories. But now there's this concept of having an underlying platform, perhaps tied around containerization, that's becoming increasingly popular. That, to what degree should we consider adopting, or what's the right word, supporting that notion of having an underlying platform as a part of the MicroProfile APIs, I guess? Because if there's Istio, does there need to be something else, right? Or I don't want to say Istio, just service meshes, right? I don't know. I thought I'd open up the broader question, because it has been something that we've been bouncing around. It's something that actually popped up in the Google groups, in a thread that didn't go very far, but it's a very important topic. So I'm glad you brought it up. Scott.
Well, I mean, I think at this point we just have to really investigate how it's going to impact our long-term roadmap, because I think it definitely will. We have a lot of uncertainty as exactly the form of the service mesh, even if you've chosen Istio at this point. So I think it's too early. We certainly can't do it in the 2.0 timeframe, but I think we really have to look hard at how it's going to impact us down the road. Because for example, to me, there's an obvious integration point with the work that's being done on the client, the type-safe proxy. Part of that's a natural point when I have a descriptor or I have a dependency on a service endpoint. Well, I should be getting a proxy that has all these Istio-enabled features or service mesh-enabled features added to that, potentially interleaved with application and deployment level configuration. And, we have no constructs around how we're going to do that to date. So I think, we need something that's going to have over or cross specification touch points on how we integrate with a service mesh architecture, that we don't control as vendors anymore, which is the wild card. Typically we've had runtimes that we understand how to deploy, that now we're having to integrate into a service mesh deployment framework, and we're having a bunch of configuration and feature behaviors pushed into us that we don't have any even abstraction today in MicroProfile.
Yep, and starting this type of activity, Scott, that might provide the opportunity for groups like Google to actually start participating with us as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's our problem with our cloud team too. Is they're not middleware guys. They're not used to providing proper abstractions for these type of APIs. They love throwing around YAML files, which drives me crazy. So getting beyond that is my main goal.
Yeah, the main thought I had here about this concept is that some of us, in addition to being, vendors around, middleware, are also have cloud offerings, right? And then, but that's not true for everyone participating. So I just want to just be, a little bit wary about what others think of this, this idea of beginning to introduce the concept of having some underlying, platform technologies begin to kind of perhaps influence MicroProfile APIs.
Well, I think in the case of like a service mesh, it's not so much the platform itself as much as an orchestration tool. So just in the case of Istio, I think the most common or like headline feature of it is to be used with like Kubernetes, but that you don't need to. It can run on kind of any environment. I think that's a big feature of it. So I think some of the things that Scott has said there is actually kind of ring true with like a lot of the things that we've been thinking of a little bit in Payara as well. Things like is fault tolerance really the best to be positioned like within your app, or should that be kind of at the layer above at the orchestration and kind of let Istio and service meshes handle it? Maybe it's actually best to have the options of both, but I think certainly Scott's suggestion of things like the REST client is a really good way of kind of just making sure that we are aware of what's going on outside a little bit.
Any other thoughts?
I think an abstraction, because I'm thinking, running microservices, I mean, they don't have to run on a container, right? They could run on bare metal or outside a container. But I like the idea of having an abstraction or some kind of a wrapper API that it can materialize to either a container or, OS calls or some other kind of platform. But I mean, if that were the case, then your, MicroProfile could run, within a containerized environment or not. Yeah, something to think about for sure.
Well, I mean, in terms of a concrete action item, what I'm thinking of is just kind of forming some kind of informal working group where we start pulling together some of the technologies and terminologies and some of the things that people are doing, and just start trying to move forward on what could be a proper abstraction and how that potentially touches on existing MicroProfile specifications, and just start to think about, I mean, again, the obvious ones are configuration, security, be that JWT or even some other security layers, the REST client API, and fault tolerance. I mean, those are tracing. Actually, it just keeps going on and on. There's a bunch of things we obviously are overlapping with the service mesh logical construct. So I think just trying to draw some lines around that and where it could potentially land on a roadmap is just something I want to try and get my head around and make sure that we have something more concrete post the 2.0 MicroProfile, which is just oriented on alignment with Java EE 8.
So can you do me a favor, Scott, and kind of take the lead on at least initially, just kind of setting up the working group and finding interested folks, and maybe a meeting time, and within the working group you can figure out who wants to lead it on a ongoing basis. But for at least setting it up, I mean, it's something I'd definitely be interested in participating in, and it sounds like there's others as well. And it's just an investigative working group to go off and figure out how to tackle this, and see if it's something worth pursuing.
Yep.
To facilitate this, Scott, the marketing team has created e-forms about not only marketing contacts, business content, leadership, but also technical. They are ready. On this call, I was going to say we need Kevin and John to direct, via the Google group, CC the main microprofilers behind the 7 projects currently, not in calendar because we need to set that up, but start gathering the exact data of those individuals so that we know who to talk with, and it's just placed openly so that everyone knows who is working on what. Without knowing who is doing what, we will not succeed in this project, no matter what we do.
Isn't that just what John said, to send it out to the mailing list?
No, mailing list doesn't.
The contact list of everybody.
Mailing list doesn't work. We need to tackle individuals, and I believe that I myself do not know exactly who is doing what on all the projects. So this list, this form, technical, is created so that those individuals can be added. They can add themselves, and we can have an inventory of human capital formally. So I would like to start a thread, and I will CC John and Kevin, and we will start gathering, bringing these individuals together.
Yeah, sounds like there's a group of subject matter experts that are that form the working group of these various spec committees, and knowing who they are, I think, is generally a good thing for everybody to know. And I would kind of leave it up to the individual working groups to populate whatever form, I guess, and keep it up to date, which is the other challenge. So I don't know if it's something that Kevin and I are best suited for, but each of the working groups should keep track of it. I actually think it's a good idea. So folks that are new coming in can actually understand who's working on what on a day-to-day basis.
Correct. And these e-forms will be added in MicroProfile. When a new person comes in, they will see immediately who to contact for mentorship. They will add themselves to the list should they want to, but we need to educate ourselves and the community, and it start with us. So I will start a thread because the e-forms are ready and we're back from vacation.
Yeah, I almost oh, sorry, there's a little feedback there. I almost think that kind of putting that information into the Eclipse project wiki is a good place to host that. As opposed to kind of like another location, but that's just my opinion, and we can discuss this in the Google groups.
It can be done in both. We have no issue with this, especially because we currently are using Google Drive and the Git. So I would prefer for us to be aligned, for MicroProfile to align to whatever form or structure Eclipse Foundation works with. They work with Git, with GitHub, so we should use two. In the meantime, I link in both. Yes. But the e-forms I created by Google. So.
Yeah, this can transition on to the mail list.
Okay. We still have about 10 minutes. 10 minutes left. So we had let's see, two items. My age is showing itself that we kind of put in the parking lot. One is marketing, and the other one dropped off my brain's full. I can't remember.
Creating the website.
Thank you. So what do you, as a group, prefer to tackle first? Okay, the marketing. It is. So marketing. It sounds like, Amelia, that you're interested in having kind of more alignment and collaboration between kind of the engineering and planning versus the actual marketing aspects. Is that the right characterization, or?
Sort of. I think the technical side should be feeding MicroProfile and not the other way around. Currently, the information gets to marketing too late. Marketing should have at least 2 months ahead of time to do anything they need to do, because the teams work globally and asynchronously. We will, I would like to see us do a little bit better on knowing who to contact with. If it doesn't occur on the Google forum, so be it. But we should be feeding the MicroProfile marketing team so they know what's coming ahead of time. For instance, this morning I was informed about what to do or what we need to do for the Nexus and the representation that we need to do for, Eclipse has a booth, and should we talk about MicroProfile? But what I know is that we are working currently on a presentation by, I think it's Kevin. However, the current work is not being shared on a thread. So when we provide the finalized product to the community via the Google email, it is already done. We don't show the bitterness and the awesomeness that goes through the process. So Kevin,
I thought I already posted that thread or that slide deck to the Google group. If I didn't, that was just an oversight.
No, you did. That's why we've all been working on it. Myself, Emily, I think Cesar had.
Yes, but the link was not posted to start with. Do you see what I mean? It was posted finalized. So they
No, it's not finalized. No. I said
no.
feedback.
No.
I explicitly asked for feedback. All I did was I took Cesar's. I went through an initial cut, and said posted it and said, hey, have at it. So I did try to be very transparent and open about it. Yeah, I thought I had posted that. So now maybe one of the downsides is it being kind of trying to build I'll use the air quotes here, official slide deck. It should have also been, that notice should have also been posted to the marketing alias, and I think that's a fair comment.
Yes, it should be CC'd, correct. So we need to educate ourselves to, when we are working on a project, I only see MicroProfile, and I get the daily sums, right? But not everyone gets those. So the marketing team or anyone else attending DevNexus do not know. And we need to do better, right? Thank goodness that, we have people working around it, but other individuals do not. So how do we get those ones attended DevNexus to help us? We shouldn't be doing all the heavy lifting, because there are people that want to help, but they cannot, because we not enable them. So we need to do better. In the next 3 months, I would like us to focus on guerrilla marketing. Really, it takes time, but it's worth it, because these people can scale themselves also.
Yeah,
So
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so the 2-month kind of heads up isn't necessarily dealing specifically with MicroProfile releases, because it's kind of hard to give you a 2-month heads up when we release quarterly. It's like, hey, heads up, we got 1.4.
No, but I meant 2 weeks.
But your point about conferences and stuff like that, yeah, that's a good thing. But I in the reverse, I kind of thought that the marketing folks were the ones that were defining which conferences were worth investing in from a dollar perspective. And
well, there are different sides of it. The technical side needs to feed marketing, and when a conference occurs, that needs to be led by marketing, correct? So there are different leaders here. For the time the release occurs, but the marketing team needs to know ahead of time. I think a month, or let's ask, right? The marketing team. But when a conference is occurring and we have many different microprofilers from different vendors and individuals, their marketing should know, but how do they know, right? So I have no idea how we will tackle this. So we have created an e-form that says, I will be attending this, and it will be added to MicroProfile.io so that anyone that is currently active in MicroProfile will go there disciplined. This will take some time, and say, I will be attending X. And we will have an inventory created automatically by every individual. So the marketing team will be fed, we have 3, 4, 7 microprofilers from all these different companies. Let's do something. And this will be done because most people are not like me that travels every 2 weeks or a day before buys a ticket, right? Most people plan months ahead of time. So we can just say, these forms are created, should you be attending? Because the form is created super simple. It says, what event are you talking about that is about MicroProfile? It shows you the 7 projects or anything in specific. And I think we can feed it, and we can end 2018 a little bit better than we have, like getting the feed from the community, right? So again.
So I wasn't aware that this exists and that we can enlist here. So not sure if others knew it. But
it just happened. We started working at the end of December, and then vacation occurred. So we're back, and this is an update. It's updated on the marketing minutes from the last call that was December 15th, I believe. And then we said we will present it on this call, not the forms, but the update. So it just occurred. So I am saying these are the steps we are taking to enable not only ourselves, but the community to communicate and give us. We shouldn't be doing this alone. We should be telling those individuals that are speaking, like Reza. We should know that Reza is going to speak because he knows he can go to I.O., fill this form. They're super simple. There's one page and say, I will be attending this event and I will speak about X. That will enable the marketing team to do anything else. And openly, all open, all the results, all the service and responses we are using the Google form. So the Gmail eForms. So I think it's fantastic to scale and transparency. For instance, Eclipse, currently Stephanie, when Eclipse wants to have a booth and he wants to focus on MicroProfile, he can ask the 11 vendors currently listed on the site, will you be interested on funding this? And each vendor can say yes or no. It can be tracked, no explanation asked. So we have that, and it's being currently used for France, Eclipse France. So it's just one of the forms of automatication that I would like to see, and we would like to pursue, because currently the system doesn't work. 2017 proved it.
So at the end of last year, looking towards 2018, we identified 4 areas. Actually, in fact, this was a result of the meeting we had at Java One. We have 4 categories that we've basically grouped activities under, and one of them is events, there's content, there's budget, and there's drive-aware membership. And different members of the marketing group had stepped forward to lead these groups. And for the events, there is a list of events that we've identified that we should be spending money on or time in. They are in the planning subdirectory under the MicroProfile marketing directory. And Amy from IBM is the lead for that bucket, or that category. Teresa, she's leading the budget one. I'm leading the drive-aware membership. And we don't have anybody for content yet, if I remember correctly. But yes, I think that question came up earlier. We do have events identified that we want to have a budget for. The next one is going to be DevNexus, which is February 21st through 23rd. Eclipse is going to have a booth. And right now, Stephanie from Eclipse, as Amelia mentioned, is she's come up with a spreadsheet and asking for volunteers to staff the booth. I'm going to have to wait. I already sent her an email because Red Hat is going to be there as well, and I'm going to be staffing that booth. So I have to figure out my schedule to be able to help out at the Eclipse booth. So that's the next conference that we're going to be targeting and we're working towards right now. Mm-hmm. I think John, you asked that earlier. And John, would you mind dropping the presentation you are working on for 1.3 into the directory that I just pasted in the chat?
Yep, I replied in the chat.
Okay, Thank you.
And so I will do that. And
it's 12 o'clock. I have another call. Sorry to
yes.
But can we create? I will send a link to the leadership contact form, but also the new calendar for marketing calls needs to be set up. Let's just set up for yesterday at 10 a.m. PDT time to 11, and then we will reconvene. The call should happen the day before this call, based on all the votes we had on the Doodle pool. But I have another call sharp. So happy 2018. Thank you all.
Yep.
And I have to go.
Yeah, and before we all drop off, one last quick note: the meeting URL will change. Kevin and I have been talking about moving it over to the Eclipse Foundation's Zoom account. So just everyone a heads up and be prepared for it to change.
Can you do that? While you do that, can you automatically do marketing also and use the Eclipse software for it, just to do it right once and for all? And
okay, create 2 separate meeting. Okay, I'll see if I can do that.
Be transferring, John, Kevin, we should be transferring all the current. I think we should be transferring all current.
I think that's what they're doing.
Events. No, they are only doing this one, but all the ones that happened before last year should be transferred to the Eclipse, and that is something that Heiko wanted to say. I believe that his call maybe was not set up, but it needs to be set up, and we should be using the Eclipse software moving forward.
All right.
Let's do all of it.
I'll start a thread in the Google group. Each team should do that.
Correct.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Actually, Wait a second with the calendar, John. The calendar, master of the calendar.
Any committer should have rights to manage the calendar that's there, as well as I think anyone in marketing can actually that's on the marketing list. Google Group.
That is incorrect.
It's listed. Well, I'll let you and Cesar figure that out, because Cesar is the one that set it up, and you guys are both in marketing.
Okay.
Sounds
good. Yeah.
But I have to go. Bye, guys.
Right.
Thank you all. Bye.
Yeah, Heiko, you can hang on if there's more that you wanted to chat about relating the calendar.
No, that was it, because I wasn't really clear to me. We were talking about it last time, and now it was an item on the open discussion, and I have to reset up my calendar entry for my meeting.
Okay, yeah, the only reason I put it there is I wanted to actually inform everybody that any committer has rights to edit the calendar now, because Cesar had set that up. So
I just haven't had the cycles. I saw that